No, her body's really small. Is that what that is?
Yeah. Checking sound. Sound. How is the sound? Sound. Jesus Christ. So much noise. So much noise.
Yes, Infinity Loop.
Oof, that was rough.
Did you hear about Dallas McCarver?
No.
Pro bodybuilder, was very young. He was like 26 or something.
Well, I take it he died.
Yep.
Doing what?
Choked on a fucking bagel, dude.
That's a bad way to go.
Yep.
You know, we need to stop starting these webinars on a death of bodybuilder pretense.
What fucking with Starlizer?
Yep.
Oh.
You're over there stuffing your face. Gonna choke on some of that curry chicken.
That curry chicken, you fucking asshole. You ever used to listen to Adam Sandler skits back in the day?
Oh yeah, I loved his stuff.
One of it was one of the guys in the family was like going to school for the first time, like up at college, and he's like, one of his brothers is like, by the way, there's Ryan James Dio concert in early October. The boys and I are coming to see it. We're gonna stay with you. He's like, okay, cool. I guess I'll sleep on the couch. That's where Fitzy's sleeping, you fucking asshole. On his own couch.
I loved his stuff.
Oh my god.
Like Toll Booth Willie.
Oh my god.
Like the Piss Pals one.
The goat was like.
Oh, the goat, yeah.
Classic. I mean, like, you can't really beat that. And he just comes home and beats my ass for a while. And that's it.
Great. Now Word opened 1,000 copies of the document I was trying to open. Get out of here.
Can we turn on the contender on mute?
So you made me turn off the thing that I was watching, and now you want to put this on in the background while we're working?
Never mind. All right.
Okay. Well, we're up to, well, we were at 7. Now we're down to 6.
Somebody was highly uninterested.
Somebody was like, fuck this. These guys suck. right, one more sound check, hopefully without the screechy sounds. Good to go. No, Daniel Jolly.
What do you say?
He said, put the contender on with sound. We're working here. That's on Fight Pass. You can watch it anytime. Actually, I like watching the Snoopcast with Snoop Dogg and Uriah Faber.
Is he on that?
So, like, the episodes air, and then you can either watch it, like, with real commentators, or you can watch it with Uriah Faber and Snoop Dogg. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it's on, it's like on demand or whatever on Fight Pass.
Uh-huh.
All right. Cool. Folks, let's get started. So we know some of you might be tuning in for the first time. Welcome if you're a first timer, and if you're not, forget about you. We're tired of some of your questions, especially you, like Shimmy Hacker, Daniel Jolly, Evgeny Rashai, all of them. Forget them. Anyways,
no more questions.
No more questions from them. If it is your first time, there is a red link. If you look under Mike's handsome face here, it says check out the questions for this week's webinar, and there's a red link. If you click that, it'll open up a Word document, and that will show you all the questions that we're going to tackle tonight, at least the predetermined questions, and then feel free to post any questions on the live feed as we go. Always get a bunch of good ones. Ready to rock?
Cool, yep.
All right, let's get it going.
All right, Evgeny Rashai has multiple questions.
He has like 8.
Number 1. Thoughts on using sodium bicarb during a strength resensitization phase pre-workout makes you shit your pants.
Yeah, so the dose you need to actually get a tangible effect. So this is one of those funny ones where, like, in the supplements discussions, almost none of them ever do anything. Sodium bicarbonate's one that actually does have a measurable, like, tangible effect, but the dose you need to actually get the effect will make you just crap your brains out. So it's not worth it. So it's not even worth entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Number 2, talk about how to implement post-activation potentiation during a high-volume phase and during the strength resensitization phase. So I'll give my thoughts, and then James, feel free to modify them. Post-activation potentiation is really just a component of the warm-up process. It is the idea that after you lift something heavy or very fast, your abilities to lift it heavy and or fast after several minutes improve, and also your perception of effort and your ability to maintain good technique during a heavy effort or high rep effort goes up. How do you use that to your best advantage? The situation in which it is most beneficial is one in which you can do something with a high force output or a high power output previous to a high power or high velocity situation. So for example, if you do a very, very heavy squat right before, let's say you're warmed up for cleans, and you do a very, very heavy front squat that you can't clean, activates many of the same muscles you use for cleaning. After that, if you give it about 5 to 8 minutes of rest, your ability to clean maximally can go up by a small fraction, but meaningful one. If you're a shot putter, if you do power cleans 5 to 8 minutes before you peak shot put, high power transfers very well to a high velocity movement, and that you can experience an advantage. If you squat super duper heavy and then do a very high vertical jump 5 to 8 minutes after, again, big transfer. There's also some transfer between heavy movements to each other. So if you squat very heavy and then rest 5 to 8 minutes, your next squat, you'll be stronger, which is just part of the warm-up process anyway. And that's already covered in the normal warm-up where you take 90-95%. One last use of relatively dubious value, but it can be used properly, is during a high repetition training phase where normally you would go, let's say 70% of your 1RM you would do for sets of 10-ish. What you can do is warm up to 80% of your 1RM, and then your first working set is actually going to be lighter than the warm-up you did, and it's going to feel really, really light, which if you want to go for an all-out max rep effort in one set, that's a very good idea. So a friend of mine named Ben Schweitzer is actually going to be doing this pretty soon. He's like a 240-pound individual, and he's going to be trying to, I think, do 25 pull-ups in a row.
Ooh.
Which is completely insane. These are not bullshit pull-ups. These are no swing, full range of motion pull-ups. It's out of this world. So what he's going to be doing when he actually does the pull-ups is he is going to warm up to doing like either 45 pounds hanging or 60 pounds hanging for like a double, and then rest 5 to 8 minutes. That's going to supercharge his nervous system to where it's going to be a better performance for that one set. The thing is, in a high volume phase as normally trained, it's multiple sets that you really care about, and the first really good set potentiates the second and on sets plenty. So what post-activation potentiation gets you in the high rep set, so you're talking about accumulation phase or high volume phase and strength resensitization phase, because that's all multiple rep sets, what it really gets you is it gets you your first set, first work set to feel better than it usually would, to probably be a little bit safer because you can maintain better technique, and gets you psychologically in the groove by hitting a good PR, feeling great, and keep going. As far as if you didn't do that, I can't really say, as long as you get all the reps you normally get, I don't think it's a huge advantage. James?
Yeah, I got two points. So basically during a high volume phase, the PAP is kind of a moot point. It really gets washed out after 1 or 2 sets. That's the problem. So the antagonist to a PAP is fatigue. Yep. So the more fatigued you get, the less benefit you get from the PAP. So you basically get it for 1 or 2, sets as part of a proper warm-up, and then it starts to get washed out the more sets you go. So there's not much to say in a high volume and a hypertrophy phase. There's not much there. A strength phase, same idea. You can get a little bit of better feel, a little bit better technique. Really, the PAP is best saved for when you are, if you're really looking to elicit a PAP, it's best for using a high force movement to potentiate a high velocity movement. And usually, and I've experimented with this and I've read some research on it, even like the typical power movements, like weightlifting movements, tend to be a little bit heavy in terms of load to actually benefit from the PAP, and in terms of like a really measurable effect. It seems to be best when you go from loaded to unloaded conditions. So for most of you, I think, who are on the webinar, who are primarily focused on, this isn't a neg in any way, but I think most of us are focused on physique, pretty much a non-issue.
Physique and strength.
Physique and strength, right? It's basically a non-issue. If those of you who want to be sprinters, strength power athletes, and by strength power, I mean power and speed, really, then it becomes a more useful tool. There's also some practical limitations to it too, because it's like, okay, they've done studies where they've potentiated things like jumps and sprints using squats, but are you going to bring a barbell out to the track before you go run your 100-meter race? Like, probably not. So in training, you might be able to elicit effect. In competition, it might be more limited.
Yeah. Number 3, maintenance phase length. Currently transitioning to maintenance after a 20-week high volume phase, 15 weeks cut, 5 weeks mini mass. Standard recommendation for maintenance phase is at least 1 month. I always did the 4-to-1 accumulation to deal with paradigm, and my question is, can it be shortened to 3-to-1, or will be rushing my maintenance? No, I think 3-to-1 is fine. I think when you get into 2-to-1 or anything lower, you start to be a questionable situation there, but I think 3-to-1 is fine.
For mass, I think that's fine. I think for cut,
for maintenance, but
it's post mass maintenance, right? So it's like if it was a cut maintenance, you might.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. So post cutting maintenance. So it really. So I guess we'll have to be. So in the context of a maintenance phase at the top of top of a mass, after a mass, to solidify gains, I think 3-to-1 is fine. If it's a cutting phase that's very long, maintenance afterwards needs to be, I would say, at least 2/3 as long as the cutting phase.
That's what I was getting
even
at.
1-to-1 for a lot of people.
I think and this is not meant to be sexist in any way, but just in my experience, the males can get away with 2/3. I think the females, it's got to be 1-to-1.
Yep. Number 4, maintenance chest and overhead work. I plan on doing 8 sets of chest 1 week, 9 the second, 9 the third, and 10 the fourth week. Basically moving from MV to MEV. How much overhead pressing can be added on top of direct chest work during a maintenance phase? 4 to 6 sets, considering MAV in the front delt hypertrophy guides is 6 sets. Yeah, we have absolutely no idea. It has
It's so
individual variance. I mean, I can probably do like 2 sets and that'll be enough for me, but
yeah, like
you might be able to get away with 10.
Anthropometrical differences, like Mike can overhead press a crap load, and I am okay at overhead pressing. So like when I do my maintenance phases, I might do 2 different days of overhead pressing because I can tolerate it. He can't. And I know other people who can do like 1 day, maybe throughout the whole mesocycle, and the shoulders fall apart anyway. So it's so variable.
And also, I would advise you not to move from MV to MEV. I would advise you to stay at maintenance volume, because remember, especially in intermediate folks like yourself, the MV to MEV difference, and this is going to be covered in the book that we're coming out with very soon. We're just in the process of editing it now in Volume Concepts. There's not many gains to make between MV to MEV. So why are you increasing your volume if it's not doing much?
And it could be taking away from the benefits of going down to MV, right, which is meant to potentiate gains in high volume training later on.
Yeah, keep it at 8, I'd say. I think you'll be good to go. Is repetitions and reserve still applicable during maintenance phase?
Let's do.
Bioelectrical impedance analysis and fat percentage measurement. How do fat percentage values measured using the bioelectrical impedance method correlate with more precise methods? Poorly. My current understanding is that bioelectrical impedance method, body fat percentage, but to what degree? It's funny. I'm the world's #1 shit talker in BIA, and here's why. So we can't even say it underestimates body fat percentage, because it overestimates it for some people. So anything that has 2 buttons on it, one that says regular person, one that says athlete, you're not actually measuring anything at that point.
The one we had in our lab straight up didn't work on like Asian people.
That's so sweet.
At all. Or people who were over 6'5" didn't work.
Yeah. BIA is pure fucking garbage as far as I'm concerned. If you ever get a chance to see any of James Krieger's presentation on body composition analysis, he really breaks down the concepts of precision and accuracy, and sort of says that precision and accuracy in a group mean is much easier to hit than precision and accuracy for an individual. And even DEXA barely does that.
Yeah.
BIA is a throwaway measurement. And our professional opinion here is don't bother with it. Just don't do it.
It's like
you're going to get a lot of confusion for sure.
You're going to get a lot of variation. Yeah. If you do it, it's like it's within the realm of reliability where you can measure, you can kind of do trend analysis to a little degree, but even then it's
after like 2 years, maybe.
Yeah. You need a fuckload of data. That's the problem. So
this is something that
it's better than nothing, but
yeah, if I remember to do a Facebook post on this, I will. Actually, as soon as I answer this question, I'm going to walk over to my phone and remind myself of this. Bad data is worse than no data. If you say, okay, well, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing, you may start using BAA and you may start altering your strategy long-term based on what it tells you. You can get fucked over much worse than if you just used the good data you already had. More data is not always better. Bad data is a net negative. Yeah. Remember, information, the definition of information, according to some information theorists, is it is essentially a roadmap of how the universe works. Having the wrong map is worse than having no map. Because if you have no map, you could look at the sun, you can see where it sets, you can kind of look at some trees and shit, maybe hear for cars and see if there's a road. But if you have the wrong map, you will definitely walk the fuck to nowhere really quick. So, there's a huge temptation with technology to use as much of it as you can, but if it's not validated and precise, it can be problematic. And as I go to my phone to type in what I just said, James, can you do your rant about the overuse of technology in the sports sciences? Because I love that rant. I think it's a really good time for that.
Is that me?
That's your rant.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh, well, I think,
what I'm talking about? Like when everyone wants to use GPS,
yeah,
and everyone wants to use tab.
Okay. Yeah, so, we run into this kind of, and unfortunately, it becomes a bit of a dick-wagging contest where there's all sorts of cool technology is been on the rise, and it's made its way into exercise and sports science, which normally is great. Unfortunately, we're not in a good place in the science to understand how to use a lot of these things. So now we have really cool toys like GPS and all sorts of really easy to use, easy to access accelerometry and velocity measurements and all sorts of cool stuff out there. And everyone loves to show it off and be like, look at all these cool things I can measure. Look at, I've been tracking my athletes' movements and their velocity and all these different acceleration bands. But the question is like, do you actually do anything with that? Do you know what are some meaningful cutoffs? How do you use it effectively? How do you use it for testing and monitoring? Nobody really does that. And it's kind of one of these weird things. It's like when you see a guy and you know he's just starting to train and he shows up to the gym with like the $300 weightlifting shoes, a customized belt, the Beats headphones, and like, you know, $300 knee sleeves, you're like, okay. And you see him warming up with the bar and then doing his work sets at like 95. And you're like, guy, why do you have all this gear? You know, you haven't even put in any time yet, right? It's the same kind of idea there where a lot of people love to just like show off all this shit that they have. And then when you ask them, and this has come up for me before, I've asked a couple strength coaches, not in a condescending way, but it's just like, hey, like, what do you guys do with all this data? And the best answer I've gotten was nothing. Think about that. So why are you going to spend thousands of dollars on something you're not even going to use, right? It's kind of crazy. So you can get a lot of stuff done with some pretty basic equipment. I mean, the thing is, like, it's not that we don't advocate for using the best resources available to you. Best. But they have to be the best, and you have to actually know what you're doing with them, right?
It's part of them being the best.
So the best example I can give is velocity tracking, which is kind of a hot thing right now. And is there a place in training and sport and exercise science for velocity tracking? You bet. The problem is that nobody has any real fallback on like what is an acceptable amount of drop off for any given movement. How much baseline data do you need? Do you have to generate a force velocity curve for every movement for every athlete that you have across like 2 years? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Chad does a really good talk in which he refers to Mike Teixeira's use of velocity measurement in reactive training systems. And people ask about it all the time. He said, if you have as much data as Teixeira, you know everything your velocities correlate to, and it's great. But if you don't have any of that data, you can look at velocity until you're blue in the face. Until you get months of it, it's fucking useless. And so if you're going to do it all in. But if you're going to collect the measurements every now and again and kind of sort of maybe, you're just wasting your time.
My opinion is that you have to literally, for any given lift, so probably just stick with the main lifts, you have to literally track their velocities across a number of different loads, which would mean different set and rep schemes. And you have to generate a force velocity curve to have any remote idea of knowing when their velocity has dropped off sufficiently to where they're not moving fast enough, right? That's the only way of knowing. And the only way of doing that is collecting for, at least in my opinion, like 6 months. And if you work in like college athletics, I mean, those kids are in and out, you know what I mean? So becomes a kind of more of a futile thing. Now, if you work in a professional team or something like that, might be more of an option, but yeah. So BIA, I don't know how we got to that from BIA, but
BIA is one of those things that it's fancy, it's techie, and it doesn't do dick. So
yeah. Skinfold's great.
Skinfold's cool. Yep. Is RIR repetitions reserve applicable during a maintenance phase, or should straight sets be preferred? No, RIR is great.
Yeah, they're both great. The only thing like you have to be careful when you use straight sets is that you can kind of creep dangerously closer to higher intensity, higher relative intensity than maybe you mean to. So as long as you're good with knowing where your numbers are at, there's no pros or cons outside of that. So, you know, like if you're 1 from fail, you're doing 3x5, and on the third set you're 1 from fail on week 1, right? You did a bad job. That's not how that's meant to go. So that might be a good use of reps and reserve as opposed to that. But either way is fine.
Downsets during a maintenance phase, are they a good idea? Or should the volume work on maintenance phase shouldn't be that high in order for downsets to be necessary? Yeah, definitely the latter. So downsets are a really good way to get in more volume. But you don't need more volume in a maintenance phase. Yeah. It's a good time to just have just one exercise of stuff and then move on. And by taking away all the downsets, you can train heavier on average because they lighten the load on average. But because you don't have to do that many sets, it's not a big deal. I look forward to maintenance phases when I'm really overreached, because instead of doing bent rows and then bent rows,
for like an
hour, like, I do 4 sets and I'm like, holy shit, I'm done. As opposed to doing way more. So absolutely.
I actually we did some video recording today, and I did a short video on downsets, so hopefully that'll get posted.
Perfect. Neil Stafford says, "Hi, Mike and James. I love listening to your Q&A videos. You guys are hilarious, but James much more than Mike, and Mike really should just quit." Jesus Christ, Neil.
What a dick.
So I have my first powerlifting meet in December.
Cool.
For an intermediate lifter, how many weeks would you dedicate towards hypertrophy, strength, and peaking blocks if I'm 18 weeks out? I mean, my best guess, I don't know what you look like or what your background is, but I would say my first guess for an intermediate lifter would be 6, 9, and 3. 6 hypertrophy, 9 strength, so 2 strength blocks.
I think that's good.
And
then like a peak taper.
And peaking. Generally speaking, the focus with beginners is a big hypertrophy phase.
Yeah.
Or multiple mesocycles. The focus with intermediates is strength phases, and the focus with advanced lifters is choosing strategic competitions and maybe not so much doing longer peaking phases, but really making sure your peaking phases are very well constructed. Now it's much more strength and peaking, not as much hypertrophy.
And you can get more fancy with the tapers as you go across. So like if you're a beginner lifter, you can take a deload week, and that's basically your taper.
100%.
For intermediate, maybe 2 weeks. Yep. Advanced, maybe 3 or more.
Yep. Also, when moving into the strength phase, does it make sense to keep any of the hypertrophy work or rep ranges for assistance exercises, or should most of the assistance be in the strength rep range with more compound movements? Well,
I think really what we want to see is the
just
assistance
beat
movements.
in the volume book, actually.
Yeah, we want to see the assistance movements starting to come out, probably closer to maintenance volumes.
Yeah. So let's answer the rep ranges thing. The rep ranges, even for assistance work, should come down. Now, does that mean you're going to be doing lateral raises for sets of 5, 6? But so what I generally tend to say for power lifters is if it's about 3 to 6 reps for main work, for assistance work that you're still keeping in, which should be minimal, but should some still be there, 6 to 8 reps. 8 on the stuff that's more isolation-y, like tricep pushdowns, 6 on the stuff that's more like bent rows or shoulder presses.
And I think that's a good point to bring up, because the real question you should be asking yourself is, should I still be doing these tricep press downs? Maybe not. Should I still be doing these bent rows? I can make a case for the bent
skull
rows.
crushers, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, but
or
probably like
more
JM, more bench, JM presses or more compound. Remember, as you go from hypertrophy to peaking, through that entire process, you go from more isolation-y type assistance work to more compound type assistance work to no assistance work.
Yes.
So try to think of your assistance work. I mean, some muscles need more, so sometimes you keep more in, but on average, it's one of those things where it's like tricep extensions with a cable and skull crushers in your hypertrophy phase, JM presses and overhead presses in your strength phase, just bench presses in your peaking phase, as an example of triceps assistance work. And the rep ranges there should be 8 to 10-ish, 6 to 10, depending on fiber type, really, but more like 8 to 10 for the isolations and hypertrophy, 6 to 8 for the JM presses and skulls, JM presses and overhead presses in strength, and then nothing in regular, just sets of 1 to 3 in peaking.
I've played around with the JM presses, and if I go like 10 reps or more, I start to get like medial epicondylitis.
Damn.
And I can do like 8. 8 is like the golden zone for me. I'm good. But
that's the kind of exercise that unless you really prefer it, it really gives you a good pump and it's really awesome for you, just weird body alignment stuff. It's the kind of exercise that is wholly pointless to do for over 8 reps, because it's like, if you do that, you might as well just skull crush it.
Right.
But the purpose of a JM press is to be a much heavier variant that still preferentially loads the triceps. Well, if you're looking for heavy, why the fuck are you doing 10 reps, Yeah. So, because you can't do 6s on a skull crusher, you'll pull your fucking tricep off the bone. So, or you'll at least shred your elbows to shit. So then perfect. 6 to 8 is the perfect rep range for a JM press. Mm-hmm. That's actually a cool topic that, we've never really dug into. I think I've made a Facebook post about it a long time ago, but it's a really cool topic that maybe we could make a whole video about it on RP Plus at some point. Exercise and load congruence, because some exercises are just not like you want a good test. It's like an IQ test for program writing. You say which one of the following exercises should not be done for 5 by 10, and then list a bunch, and one of them's like 5 by 5. Which one should not be done 5 by 5? And whoever doesn't pick lateral raises out of that group is like, well, clearly you have no fucking clue what's going on, because beginner lifters are people who just read a lot and don't actually train as much. they'll do like, oh, I'm doing 5x5 lateral raises. What the fuck are you going to do that for? You're going to blow your shoulders out. They're like, no, that's not going to happen.
You're not going to get anything out of
Fine.
it.
Yeah, for sure. No pump. Nothing's going to happen at all. So.
Because the lever's so long, it's like, how much can you really do for 5x5? Probably the same you could have done for 6x8.
Like 2.5 pounds more.
Yeah, like
sweet. You're the man.
If you're in 5 pound increments, there's not much choice there.
Yeah.
That's when actually having kilos is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Because they have those really small.
Yeah.
If you go to a gym that has the really tiny increments, it's sweet.
Let's see. Lastly, for my peaking block, I'll be following Dr. Mike's articles on JTS peaking for powerlifting for a 3-week peak. Does the following setup for main lifts make sense? Week 1, 4 sets of 3 reps at 90%. Week 2, 2 sets times 3 RM, volume taper. And then week 3, 3 sets by 3 at 50% intensity taper. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, maybe I'm just being nitpicky, but if it says 2 by 3 RM, just
that confused me. As you can tell, I started to read a little slower.
Just be careful about that because I mean, literally that's impossible.
Yeah.
But close to
2 sets of close to your 3 RM.
Yeah. But it looks good. Yeah.
Benjamin.
When I saw this earlier today, Mike was recording a video and I was downstairs and I was trying not to laugh, but I was like,
okay, so he says, "Hey, James and Mike, first of all, no, I am not Jewish."
We have given him shit like 2 weeks in a row.
Look here, Benjamin Schnabel. So we have a variety of jokes to throw back at you. One that I thought was going to be good is, don't lie to us, motherfucker. Last name like that. We know you're Jewish, dog. You don't have to deny it. You're among friends, homie. But again,
I got that accusation when I first met Mike too. Actually, when I first met him, after I had milled around for a little, he was like, "Bro,"
he had like an afro, and he was from Chicago,
and it wasn't just
his name was Hoffman.
He was like, "Are you a gay Jew?" I was like, "I'm neither of those." He was like, "Oh, cool." Anyways,
that was my first guess.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, but
yeah. Guilty as charged. So, okay, and then the second joke is, why you got to deny being Jewish, huh? Was that like a bad thing?
Right. Come on.
Fuck. In any case, sorry for the mislabeling. Okay, question number 1. If one uses an upper-lower split for size gains, would it make more sense to train on an upper body day, all exercise for a certain muscle group, back to back to back, then switch to the next muscle group? So, for example, chest 1, chest 2, back 1, back 2, or would it be better to switch exercises for different muscle groups?
For size, yes. For strength, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you get a marginal metabolite effect for the
So one thing I've noticed is that when I have structured programs for clients that are alternating, push, pull, they do much more volume, but they don't get as sore, which you would think is a good thing. But to me, that's not such a great thing.
Not for size.
Yeah. So I think that there's less local metabolite accumulation and there's less local fatigue. And I think that you get a chance to recoup, but I think there's something is missing. I think that accumulated pump for multiple sets back to back for the same muscle group, whether by metabolite or whatever other mechanism, I think there's value in that. Am I willing to stake my claim on it? No, but that's my best guess.
So I think what we're all agreeing basically is saying upper lower is maybe not the best split style for hypertrophy. If you're gonna go that route, that's probably a decent way to go about it. For strength, it really doesn't matter. The problem that you run into with that split is whatever first muscle group you start with, let's say it's chest, you're gonna have a great chest session.
Yeah.
Then you get to the back, it is de-emphasized inherently because you're gonna have the fatigue of the chest session and you're not gonna have a great session there. Yeah. So then unless you do flip-flop it where you have heavy light and then
you should.
Yeah, and then you have to start with back the next time and then do the light chest.
So if Monday you do chest then back, Thursday you should do back then chest. Mm-hmm. But I think that for size, we would cluster the muscle groups together instead of spread them out. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah, the signaling stuff. So
the warm-up
Benjamin is mentioning that cons and pros and mentioned some signaling stuff, and that's true.
The warm-up sets is a bitch too.
Warm-up sets is a huge pain in the ass, right? Once you're warmed up, for bent rows, pull-ups is easy, but if you've rewarmed for chest, then you got to start warming up again.
I'm glad I got through that bench workout. Time to warm up some rows. Like, fuck.
I'll tell you guys this. One reason why, there's some literature supporting full body routines is pretty decent, especially for weaker lifters. And then there's individuals that say full body routines are a good idea for very advanced lifters. there is definitely some merit, and that kind of advocacy gives me pause and gives me thought. But just to, James fell onto a crystal vase. So just to give you guys some thought there about what the potential downsides are of full body routines applied to advanced individuals, the warm-up demands can get completely insane, for lack of a better term. I know I'm not doing a full body routine, and here's why. It takes me about 30 minutes to warm up for heavy squats, and it takes me at least 20 minutes to warm up for heavy overhead presses. And those have no carryover to each other whatsoever in the warm-up. It takes me at least 20 minutes to warm up for bent over rows, usually longer, and for deadlifts, like 45. So to me, a full body program carried out on an advanced lifter is really tough to do all the muscles justice.
Yeah. It kind of like there's a point where you have to kind of choose your goals. Like if you're doing powerlifting and you're doing a hypertrophy for powerlifting, you can kind of get away with that. If you're doing like physique and bodybuilding style training, like you have to let go of that style.
I think for advanced lifters, a double split at least is something that's going to have to be considered. Question number 2, if someone is very slow twitch dominant, obviously he should train with higher reps. Not obviously, but probably. But let's continue. Should he do higher reps and have short rest periods, or do higher reps and have longer rest periods between sets as usual? Would the metabolite accumulation he gets from variant A also lead to more growth if the slow twitch fibers, or is it only the high reps that he's doing to lead more growth? I think it's A. I think that people, my guess, educated guess, see what James has to say, is that people who have more slow twitch fibers, the burn is what grows them more than the heavy loading. So you're not going to get much of a burn taking 3 minutes between high rep sets, but you will fuck yourself up taking short rest breaks. But the thing is, slow twitch individuals have to do a lot of total reps too. So make sure you're obviating for that, right? So what we mean is you could actually have better results if you rest longer and say, man, the longer rest really does work for me. But it's not the longer rest. It's the fact that you get to rest longer that increases the number of reps you can do per set. And if you can only do 5 sets each way, you do way more reps. So if you're going to take shorter rest breaks, you might need to do 8 sets total to get those to the total number of reps that we're talking about that would cause the most hypertrophy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So I would say, like, I think both are probably equivocal to a point. But the problem that you run into is when you do the high reps and short rests, sooner or later people start to either sell the intensity too low or the volume too low. One of them tends to give out. So you
can fix the volume by doing more sets. You can't really fix the intensity.
Right. So at some point, like the intensity drops to a point where it ends up just being kind of garbage volume, and even slow twitch people will probably stop benefiting from it less. The other thing too is, and this is something we're not entirely sure about, we have some pretty good ideas, the longevity of doing like metabolite focused training is probably not that great either, even for slow twitch people. So I would say probably, I would maybe split my time between the two of them fairly, I don't want to say symmetrically, but spend a lot of time doing high reps with short reps.
If you're more slow twitch, I think you can get away with doing higher reps 2/3 or 75% of the time, not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I think everyone should still circle back to some heavyweight every now and then.
You got to circle back to the heavyweight.
Just the same way, just for pure variation, I think fast twitch individuals should do at least 25% of their training with very high reps.
Because if you take that approach, then why isn't every runner and cyclist like jacked out of their mind?
Yeah, there's no so this is a very good point, James. We have to make something clear. There is no adjustment a slow twitch individual is going to make that is going to bring them up to fast twitch size. You can do your best, but it's still not going to be the same.
Yeah.
So remember, slow twitch dominant means maybe you have 70% slow twitch, 30% fast twitch. You still need to train them fast twitch boys every now and again. Yeah. You can't just go away altogether.
And you can't just do full like slow twitch, traditional like slow twitch endurance type training, right? Because then you don't grow at all.
For sure.
Because the intensity is too low.
For sure. Oscar A says, to the doctors, I have a question regarding
my doctorate's actually fake. I forged it.
I didn't even forge mine. I made it up.
Just went to the office like, hey, can I get one of those?
Not even. I just tell people that I'm a PhD.
Like Dr. Venture from the Venture Brothers.
For sure. To the doctors, I have a question regarding the ordering of different mesocycles around depending on circumstances. For example, the stress from life outside the gym. Scary place. I seem to be able to handle a lot of volume and everything's fine and schedule in life. Same for everyone.
I think I see where this is going.
But sudden stressful events impact my performance drastically. Sometimes I can't even perform close to what a meso started with especially during metabolite accumulation. I know of light days, but sometimes life gets in the way and you're suddenly doing half-week deloads or half workouts. My question is how the physique templates could look if the metabolite cycle would be removed or postponed longer.
So I think one thing I want to just chime in here real quick, and then we'll answer your question too. But one thing that we try to make clear with our clients, and then we also try to tell our coaches to tell their clients, there is a time in life to go hard with these kind of things. And there's a time in life where there are other priorities, and this goes on the back burner. And that is completely 100% okay. If you have important things going on, like you have family members in the hospital, your family is in disarray for various reasons, you're going through divorce, whatever, you got bad stuff going on, diet and training stuff is great, but it's not a priority. It's not a good time to worry about this kind of stuff. There are times in your life when things are stable and things are good and everything seems to at least be in order. Great time to hit the gym and the diet stuff hard because things are predictable and will always be pretty consistent. So it's perfectly okay to say, like, you know what, I'm in a shitty time in my life. And I spent most of last year making this case for myself. And I had to back off because things weren't going the way I wanted to at my other job. And that's okay. You have to come to terms with it and say, like, this is not a priority right now. I can always come back to it. I just have to make sure I don't detrain. I don't, adaptive decay, and everything will be fine in the future once things are stable.
Yep. And so to answer your particular question, if shit is really hitting the fan to the point where autoregulation of the templates can't keep up, right? Like, because autoregulation does one set at a time, then what you should do is cut your volume about in half. Set numbers should go in half. Weight should probably increase like 5 or 10%. And you're not doing lower reps because those tend to, for the less work, conserve adaptations better. You can also consolidate your days if you'd like. So take a couple of days, take out some exercises as far as assistance work, smush the compounds together, and maybe train 3 days a week instead of 5. Do that until and unless your negative life events, the stressful ones, are pretty much gone. And then when they're gone, ease back into a new mesocycle of conventional hypertrophy work.
Yeah, and I would even go as far to say as if you know, like it sounds like you have a pretty good idea of when shit's hitting the fan, disregard the metabolite phase altogether. Move into resensitization and maintenance. Just cruise for a little bit. You can always do it again later. You can always like come back around to it. Just cruise. If it's that bad where your lifts like tank and your life is, you're having a hard time, move into that maintenance phase, homie. It's totally fine. Yep. And you'll feel better. You'll feel better.
The analogy I've been using lately is how a little crab gets out of the ocean and onto the beach. So what little crabs do.
I feel like this is a story of the evolution of crab guard.
I was going to reference it to you having crabs.
Also true.
So how does a little crab get out of the ocean? Well, you guys have ever been in the ocean, the waves pull you back really hard. What little crabs do is when the wave is going their direction, they let go of the sand and they get washed ashore. When the wave is going the other way, they don't try to fight it and walk up. They just clutch and stay. When the wave leaves them and then another wave comes and pushes them forward, they start climbing. So when your life is really pulling you down, don't make it a goal to resist and fucking just keep going. Just hold your ground. And that means maintenance phase. You still train hard, just not nearly as much. And then when shit gets better, then you push it. Like that, you're always taking 1 step forward, 0 steps back, instead of trying to take 2 steps forward when you're supposed to be holding and going 3 steps back. Overreaching, overtraining, stuff like that.
Totally.
Daniel Shimmy Hacker. Hackman.
So Dan messaged me and he was, because on the last webinar we were like, Daniel Hacker.
Who the fuck is
Who is that? It was him.
Yeah, I figured. Questions for Mike and James. How many sets of RDLs and conventional deads will you do before you start downsetting? For me, it's variable and it depends on when my lower back tells me to go fuck myself and simply will not maintain an arch. Because my low back, it fatigues. I have a really fast twitch low back, which actually makes sense because if you see my erectors, they're gnarly and gigantic, but that means they're mostly fast twitch.
Unusual because that's usually a slower
twitch group. Which sucks balls because I fucking fatigue my lower back all the time. Great, because it gets huge. So for me, usually I can't do any more than about 5 sets of deadlifts or stiff-legged deadlifts until I need a downset. Good news is
my MRV is right about 5 sets per week for heavy stiff-legged deadlifts, and especially for heavy deadlifts. I really don't do down sets for deadlifts or stuff like that because of that. But I would say, look, if you can continue to get good reps and continue to hit your rep goals and your technique is good, shit, go to it. But if it starts to break down, you might have to lower the weight.
I have a similar but different scenario where I have a good anthropometric build for deadlifting. So deadlifting takes a lot out of me. The problem is with doing regular deads, I get systemic fatigue, right? So I can get to like 3 or 4 sets, and then by then I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
And then if I move to straight leg deadlifts or RDLs or any of those, whatever, then I can actually train really hard on the periphery because I have really high work capacity, which blows. So it's one of those easy to overreach kind of situations where you get a huge amount of systemic fatigue without a lot of local fatigue yet. You just got to be careful. So for me personally, I usually don't go more 3 or 4 of conventional deads, and then maybe like a handful, like 1 to 3 of SLDL after.
Yeah, you wrote later, and it's totally true. If you can maintain your tightness and you're not exceeding your MRV, keep going.
Yeah.
During a maintenance phase, is it best to pick exercises you want to potentiate strength for on the succeeding hypertrophy mesocycle, or pick exercises that are different than what's to come in the next cycle to have variation combo of higher volume and different movements? It depends on how much you value strength potentiation versus variation. I think that I think it's rather equivocal. I think it's your call.
I like this is just personal choice. I agree with Mike. It's equivocal, but for me personally, I like people to hit big numbers on their maintenance phases so they can feel accomplished, like they finished either their cut or their mass, and now they have the maintenance phase. They're at a higher intensity. Hopefully they can have something to show for it, right? So I like to use the kind of potentiate into having the strongest lifts into the maintenance phase, and then using variation after that. But it doesn't really matter that much.
Yep.
That's just personal. Yep. And it's kind of nice too, like when you go at the end of the mass phase, like if you've been high bar squatting, you get a high bar squat at the end of the maintenance phase, and then you can kind of show off a little bit and feel good, right? And then you switch it to close stance or front squat or something.
On a mass phase, is it best to eat at maintenance on rest days, the same as workout days, or something in between? Well, so here's the deal. There's 2 answers to this. One correct answer and one that we end up having to program with a lot. The correct answer is usually you eat I don't know if the same as workout days. It's not the same as workout days because you have to generate the same size surplus. You generate a surplus on workout days and you generate a surplus on off days. But because on off days, your general input, your expenditure is low, it's going to be something in between the two. So that's the answer. But it's not some arbitrary number in between the two. It is the same size surplus. So if you're running a 300 calorie surplus on training days, you run a 300 calorie surplus on rest days, because remember, you still need a surplus. A lot of your growth just as much occurs on rest days as it does on training days.
Yeah, arguably more in some cases.
Perhaps, absolutely. So that being said, some of the more meticulous viewers of ours could say, "But how come the diet templates aren't really designed like that? They're designed for the off days to not really be a surplus." Because remember, the diet templates, if you have 6 workout days a week, or if you have 2, you buy the same diet template. For individuals who have 2 days a week, we can't give you a 500 calorie surplus every off day because you will get gigantic and fat. For individuals who have 6 days a week, it's a little irresponsible on your day off, day 7, to not eat at a surplus. You're going to eat on that day, ideally, almost as much as you would eat on a training day, right? Because you have to work out and recover from so many days. That's a shortcoming of the templates solved in advanced theory that you're getting here to construct your own diet, and or if a coach writes you a diet. So it's just a limitation of the template program.
I actually got a huge backlash because I posted a picture recently on Instagram of like a big old pizza that I was eating because I'm on like the tail end of my mass phase. And I had like 3 or 4 clients message me like, "Where's my pizza?" And I was like, well, you didn't want to get super fat on your mass. I accepted pure Java mass.
Were they speaking Hatties when they said this?
No, they were jealous. They were like, "Why aren't
choco pizza?
I was telling them, like,
yum.
that's me. You chose to not go this route, which is a better. You took the high ground. I took the low ground, right? Like,
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
yeah.
A lot of you folks that have been asking us to do a podcast, if and when we do one, it will be
all in Huttese.
first. No. It's going to be subtitled in English because it's going to be in Huttese. You just know that. Okay?
Can I wear the Jabba costume?
Oh my god, that'd be fucking amazing. We should do it in costume.
Okay, so I don't know if Dr. Fiance, aka Melissa Davis, hates. I have this Jabba the Hutt Halloween costume.
It's fucking unbelievable.
It's hilarious. It has a fan built into it, so it literally like blows up.
He's 8 feet tall, and it looks like he weighs
And it
700
has
pounds.
like a big tail, and the feet are like 2 inches apart, so you can only take baby
You
steps.
slug around.
And I'm the fast walker in our group, so I'm the one who always is like 10 feet ahead, slow down, 10 feet ahead, slow down. But when I'm in the Jabba costume, everyone's waiting for me, and you guys feel my pain, right?
That's
We're like,
awesome.
James, come on, remember when we went to like the diner? We were at like some crappy diner in
It was
Philly
amazing.
in the Jabba
It took
costume.
you 3 years to get to that diner. It's so awesome. Being around that costume, Jabba's face is like, whoa, like his eyes are all fucked up and his tongue sticks out one way. So anytime you look at James for a reaction, it's like, James, you're looking, he's like, and you're like, you just start laughing.
I can't
It's the
hear
greatest
anything
thing
in
ever.
that either. So everyone's like,
Yeah.
James, I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it's just like, you just watch him, he's doing dumb Jabba shit. It's great. It's a costume which demands you get into character. There's no alternative.
Mel hates it. Hopefully she's watching now and we'll chime in.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. Next question. Could training small muscle groups, biceps, calves, side delts, up to their MRV while concomitantly training the bigger muscle groups for strength interfere with maximal strength adaptations? Yes, but not much unless you are really beating them up and depending on if they're in the contractile chain. So for example, if you train your side delts a shitload and you're trying to train overhead press hard, you're going to pay because they're pretty heavily involved in that. If you're training close grip bench hard, they don't really do much, so it's not going to be as big of a deal. Biceps. If you're doing bench presses and stuff and squats, your biceps don't really interfere with that. Who gives a shit? If you're doing bent rows or pull-ups, forget about it. Bicep MRV is going to destroy your shit. Calves, if you're doing deep high bar squats and you're training calves a lot, you're going to have sore calves. It's at the very least going to be annoying.
Mike
It's a
wrote my
trade-off.
training for a while, and he gave me the fucking like small of calf program because I have skinny legs.
9x9 calves.
It was terrible. It was like 9x20.
sweet. Your
it was-
calves got bigger.
They got big. Yeah.
Next question. When training a movement twice a week, can you give an example for bodybuilding of how it can best be structured for best gains as an intermediate, different rep ranges, different sets? Yeah, sure. I'll give you a quick example. So in, let's say for back, Monday, you do, let's say, a total of 6 sets of bent rows and 4 sets of pull-ups. Relatively heavy sets of 6 to 12. On Thursday, you do a total of 3 sets or 4 sets of pull downs and 2 sets of cable rows, anywhere between 15 and 20 reps per set. That's a total of 16 sets per week. And of course, that's just one snapshot week. And that means you train a really big back day. On Monday, really hard compound movements. And on Thursday, you would train much easier, much lighter, much higher rep, get good recovery, rest and repeat. That's just an example, but I think it gets all the dots.
Yeah. And I just be careful about like different rep ranges and stuff. Like generally those should be pretty much identical across the mesocycle. It shouldn't really be.
If you're doing work capacity for powerlifting, those shouldn't change much. For maximum hypertrophy for bodybuilding, you can change them. Just don't get super crazy with the shit.
Yeah.
Exercise selection for athletes in season. Do you still provide them with the compound movements and just scale back intensity and overall volume?
No.
Go ahead and take this one.
Yeah. So no, you still choose the compound movements. Actually, generally, this is going to be some of the most intense training in terms of not only the exercise selection, but the general activities of training. So in their in-season phase, they will be doing what and you'll read, hopefully if you guys check out the volume book that's coming out, I think you'll really like it. In season, they're going to be spending most of their time training tactics, which basically is doing their sport live drilling, whatever their sport is, whether it's rugby or tennis, it's like doing scrimmaging and live drilling of that kind of stuff, right? So that's also very stressful. In the weight room, they're going to be primarily focusing on power and speed output. So that's going to include things like plyometrics, weightlifting movements, sprinting type stuff. And then we're going to usually pepper in some maximal strength training in there just to kind of keep some maintenance volume. So typically it's going to be very, very low volume, but very, very high intensity. And the intensity comes from the movement speed, the power output, and or the load on the bar for the strength training movements.
Yep. Next he says, or, if you don't do the compounds in, being that the athletes are likely chronically fatigued from game and sport practice, do you give them less barbell movement and more dumbbell machine band type work? I just see, I'll get to that in just a sec. I just see so many strength coaches go so far from their off-season and preseason training during season to give their athletes circuits and other less optimal forms of resistance training. And I'm curious if there is a sound reasoning behind this practice. If the intention is good, the reasoning is bad. I mean, you guys don't see guys like LeBron, D. Wade, or Tom Brady doing much barbell work during the season. Those guys pretty much don't train with very good intelligence in their programs. That's not up to them. It's up to the strength coaches. I'll put it this way. The current strength and conditioning state of affairs is, on average, pretty fucking shitty. It's just not that great. So you're going to see a lot of mistakes made, like in the 60s, NFL linemen didn't lift weights. So in the 60s, we could have had a seminar and, someone could have said, it's a really good idea to lift weights for a lineman because, most linemen don't. Well, that's back when linemen were averaging 225 pounds body weight. Now they're averaging 350 or something and they're monsters. So the thing about this is the notion, the intention is to make the stimulus less great, to make room in the volume allotment in the MRV for recovery because of the increased intensity and demand of sport practice. And there's a direct interference effect where they don't want beat up athletes doing high intensity, high volume moves because that gets them hurt, nor do they want athletes that have been beat up by high intensity, high volume weight room stuff getting fucked over on the court and in practice, either with injuries or with tiredness. However, they're going about it wrong. The best modulator of fatigue is volume and not intensity. You can still keep intensity very high and actually use compound movements that still transfer highly to performance, especially power and strength. The thing with going to easy movements like dumbbell shit, band shit, machine shit, it lets you do just as much work as you had done before, but it lowers intensity and keeps volume up. This gives you every single cost, every downside of continuing to train at high volume with none of the benefits. If you're not doing overloading work in strength and power, that is, you're doing this machine band shit, what is it that the weight training is getting you? And when you ask strength coaches to their faces, what the fuck is it that you're doing in this weight room? They'll say things like, well, keeps them healthy, and they just go off on bullshit tangents that don't make
sense. Keeps the synovial fluid in the joint,
It's the lift system. So basically, people have no fucking clue what's going on. All they know is we have to do less, and they're right about that. But they chose the wrong kind of less. Less is go in, warm up for heavy squats. Heavy's relative at that point, and you avoid injury areas. You do what you can. 3 sets of 2. You do push press for 3 sets of 2, and then you fucking leave. Short day, not a ton of volume, no soreness generated whatsoever, but it lets you keep your strength power. If you go in there, you do 5x10 of bands and machines, you will still get fucked up. You'll get sore. It won't hurt your joints, but you won't
be fast.
Hypertrophy. It directly interferes with speed expression and power expression.
One thing I just want to check, everything that Mike said is 100% spot on. One thing to keep in mind, basketball is a tough one to make comparisons. Football is a good one because they play once per week, sometimes, rare occasions, maybe twice per week, mostly once. Basketball, it's not unusual for them to play 4 to 5 times per week.
It's not unusual to play 4 or 5 times.
So this is exactly, and this is one of those things where you have to think critically because there's everything in the world is going against you in that scenario because not only are you playing 4 to 5 times per week, but you also have to travel and do all sorts of other shit. So the opportunities to make it happen in the gym are limited. Everything is against you. That doesn't mean that throwing it out the window and just doing dumbass workouts is the right way to do it. That is what they do, as Mike already explained. We don't think that's the best way to go about it. And I think, and a good example of like an in-season basketball workout might be some 10-meter sprints, some counter movement jumps, some push press, and then a couple heavy squats, and then you're out of there. And then you like take 6 hours of rest and then go to basketball practice in the evening, right? That's like a typical day.
2 days a week. Doesn't beat you up hardly at all.
Yeah.
Che Sophie says.
Che Sophie.
Yeah, that's very fancy. Says.
Can you read this one in a French accent?
I absolutely love performing the competition lifts. No, I make love to them. Sweet love to them. Oh, Jesus Christ, Che.
The little like the squat bar pad.
Oh yes. You can do many things. Cambered bar in the bedroom. If I regularly change training phases, I love performing the competition lifts. If I regularly change training phases, cutting hypertrophy, strength, peaking, change frequency, and change the assistance exercise, is there any issue with leaving the competition lifts in? Yes, there is an issue. It's not much of an issue anymore, but it's still there. You can do the competition lifts almost all the time, but I think 1 in every 4 to 6 mesocycles, you should remove them completely, and here's why.
Are you talking about weightlifting or powerlifting?
I assume powerlifting.
Okay.
So here's the competition lift problem here is doing the competition lifts. So by altering a lot of other variables, you've taken care of the variation problem. That's great. But the problem of accumulated joint wear and tear stays. So what you have to do is if you always low bar, doesn't matter what else you do, you will fuck up your elbows or shoulders, right? God. Or wrists. One of those is going to get fucked up. And you'll probably fuck up your hips too if you do that long enough. At least every 4 to 6 mesocycles, take a mesocycle away from low bar squats. Take it away from competition bench. Take it away from regular deadlifts.
Did I tell you my Dr. Lamont low bar squat story? I did low bar squat. This is so just so you know, we do dumb shit. We did dumb shit all the time, and we have learned from it, right? That's partially why we are doctors now. I tried doing 3 mesocycles in a row of low bar squat at higher volumes for whatever reason. I don't know what I was doing.
Fuck.
And my arm started going numb, like dead arm, at non-lifting times. So just like casually I'd be at lab and my arm would be like limp. And I went to Dr. Lamont, who was one of our colleagues. Well, he wasn't a colleague, he was an advisor at the time. And he was like, dumbass, why are you low bar squatting all the time? Yeah. Why are you doing that? He's like, of course your shoulder's fucked up. Yeah. He's like, cut that out. And sure enough, I cut it out. And my arm came back after about a month. It took like another month after that, but came back. And I had numbness, tingling, and dead arm throughout the day.
I remember when I was doing too much low bar, I would low bar, and then I would walk away from the platform and shake with pain because how much my
it hurts.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Fuck low bar.
Especially like to get a really good tight setup, not the like West Side collar to collar setup, right? Like really tight low bar setup. Mm-mm.
Brian Delgado says, after dieting for 12 weeks and now entering a maintenance phase for 2 months, how should be adjusted during this time?
I got this.
Okay.
Cardio for fun only. Meaning if you actually enjoy cardio or you get cardio from doing recreational activities, like if you like going to CrossFit classes for WODs, if you like going to wrestling or Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's it. No, what I usually tell my clients is no structured cardio. Don't go to the gym to do cardio outside of what you like to do.
Steve Blair, I've just got myself a safety squat bar and was wondering how to work it into my exercise rotation. You should have done that backwards, Steve, but I'm just being a dick at this point. It seems the camber of the bar would make it a quad dominant movement, quads and lower back to keep you erect. Would it be, and actually the entire erector complex, would it be a good replacement for high bar squats when I have to cycle them out? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And try good mornings with them. They will fuck you up. All right.
First, okay, look at this guy's name, and then let's take a bet on whether or not he listens to melodic doom metal.
Okay, Matthias, if you want to get back to us, that'd be sweet. Hi, guys. I've heard that if you have been overweight, I can take myself for an example. Been up to about 25% body fat and you lose the fat and say you get to 10 to 12%, as my goal is, and then bulk up to 15, will I just mostly regain the fat and not muscle? Is that true? Is it worth to bulk in my case? Or just maintain at 10 to 12 and hope to get slow gains over the long term?
Mm-mm.
Don't do that. That
No,
doesn't
no.
get you any gains. Currently about 20%-ish, having a diet break for 8 weeks before the next cut. So I would say that get to 10 to 12 and then slowly work up to 15. Once you get to 15, maintain for a while there, and then get down to 10% and then cycle between 10 and 15.
That's great. Like it's up to, I think there's like I'm the first person who will neg sports psychology. And I admit that I'm usually the first person who says like, nope, that's lame. Let's not talk about that. But I think there is a psychological component to massing where it's best if you definitely stay in that 10 to 15% range, right? No doubt there. But at the same time, if you've done some hard cuts before and you want to just like cut loose and maybe go a little above and beyond on your mass and just have fun with it,
It's not a huge deal.
it's not a huge deal. Is it suboptimal? Yes. It's probably hurting you in the long term, but it's also like giving you the little bit of extra steam. And
There's no long term if you fucking burn out.
Exactly. So I took liberties on this one, and I've been like eating pizza and wings and like cocktails, and
I only have 40 to 60 grams of fat on most of my massing days now.
Well, you do a much better job than I do.
I'm doing the other thing, but it's tough. It really is.
It's hard.
Like dieting all the time. So, all right. Next question. I would like to hear about some thoughts about training days per week. Currently only training 3 days a week with male physique template, advanced full body. I don't have much time for more days due to family and work. How much do you think I'm missing out just doing 3 days, then 4 to 6? Doesn't matter because you don't have time for it anymore. That's literally my answer.
So, like, if you want to be nitpicky about it, like, could you potentially be getting stronger, more jacked if you could dedicate more days per week and increase the intensity of those training sessions per muscle group? Yes, absolutely. But it's a non-issue, like Mike said.
Yeah, you're missing out on some. But listen, I'll put you this way.
It's better than missing out on your family.
Yeah, you're missing. I'll tell you what's really missing you gains. You could have way more gains if you're running about 2 grams of anabolic steroids a week, running a shitload of growth hormone and so much insulin you got to eat every 30 minutes or else you die. You get a ton of gains doing that. That's a shitty fucking trade-off for no damn reason. You even missing gains by not having optimal genetics, but there ain't nothing you can do about that. So, if you don't live your life like a monk, bodybuilder, you're missing out on all kinds of gains. But who gives a shit? It's all trade-offs. The trade-off way you phrased it, if you had phrased the question, and we're giving you a hard time because we think your question is very good and it's worth answering. If you phrase your question as, listen, I do have the free time, I'm just not so sure if it's worth it, we'd say it's fucking worth it to do 4 to 6 days, 100%. If you told me, hey, Dr. Mike, you got to get just as big and jacked as you planned, but you got to do them only 3 days a week, I'd start laughing and laughing and laughing. And then I'd be like, wait, can I come in AM and PM in those 3 days? And you'd be like, nope, just 3 sessions. I'd be like, all right, back to laughing.
Get out of here.
Can you be in great shape for a regular guy and be pretty jacked and lean with 3 days a week and have awesome times with family and a good career? Totally. So don't trade those things away. But so if you would have phrased it like, can I trade it away? I would say yes. But if you say that your family and career matters, shit, by the way, is much more important than training. You made the choice.
There's
nothing wrong with it.
This shit is vanity. It's vanity. It's recreation.
It's all entertainment. We're in the entertainment industry. Don't
Fuck that.
shit.
Family, loved ones, priorities come first. Mel chimed in about Java.
I thought you were saying family, like fuck your loved ones, fuck your family.
Fuck that.
You got to get jacked at all costs. All right. Let's see how much business we got going on here.
Mel, I saw your comment.
After hours. All right.
We should have a second half where this is like our weekly webinar, dark, where we change outfits.
And sweet. Candles
black
and shit.
Light and
to be honest, I think we should start cutting off the questions at about 40 minutes and then going to the live.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Nicole Wisniewski was I don't know.
Nice.
I would
was
say
good.
That's how I would say in Russian.
That was good. It's a ski, so it's probably Polish.
Yeah, it's very Polish. That's how we'd say it. That's my Russianization of your Polish name, Nicole. All right. I recently suffered from a stress fracture in my ankle from overuse, weightlifting plus CrossFit training and competitions. That'll do it.
That'll do it.
I was in the middle of a cut. I'm fairly lean already, but was trying to reach a certain weight class for weightlifting. The fracture.
Time out. I hate to be the dickhead about this. Oli,
James, we don't have time for this shit.
I hate it. It's weightlifting.
It's pronounced Ollie, by the way.
Either way, it's wrong.
I know that pisses you off. Even
It's
more.
weightlifting. It's literally the name of the sport is weightlifting.
Pedantic, James is pedantic.
How many sports are in the Olympics? A bazillion.
Just one, Ollie. Do you do Ollie?
No.
You look like an Ollie.
I wish I could. I have terrible anthropometry for that
all
shit.
Olympic
for all
competition.
strength sports.
All right.
Fuck.
I'm fairly lean already, but I was trying to reach a certain weight class for weightlifting. The fracture obviously slowed me down. Yes, as it should. In a boot for 4 to 5 weeks and lost a bit.
Is that Canadian for in about?
Oh yeah, boot. Trying to climb back now that I am without the boot. Weight is fairly stable, only 2 pounds to go. So question, how long does it take to get strength back after an injury?
It's so variable.
If you took 4 or 5 weeks and now you're back, I'd say within 2 months you're going to get back everything. But again, there's a big variability there. Next question is, should I be cutting and finish this or maintain and try again? Maintain and try again. Remember, maintenance and the adequate nutrition that comes from it is a big part of healing you. If you start cutting, your bones won't heal nearly as fast and it could re-aggravate. And then what? Maintain for at least the next 2 months and then hit it. Tony Drotnell. Hey,
It
Tony.
looks like Melchamp did on this one.
Why the fuck is Mel answering our question?
She's helping us out.
Who the fuck is she anyway?
I think she looks like she did a good job too.
Whatever. Hey, guys. She's woman-splaining. That's what she's doing.
Femsplaining.
Femsplaining, that's when you very politely and in turn answer a question. Men are fucked up.
She's pissed about the job.
I had a debate with people about mansplaining once, and I was trying to say, like, ladies, mansplaining is definitely a thing. Men do it to each other too all the time. You're not alone. It's like saying like violence in general, that men are like more violent, that it's like only against women. Oh no, we mostly just kill each other. Yeah. So anyway, let's see. Tony Drotnell says, hey guys, how fast do vegan protein powders like hemp, pea, and rice protein absorb? Oh shit, Mel answered that one.
Yeah, she like
Mel is the expert on that.
one.
I'm not Tony. I'm not even gonna try that shit. I know some of it, and Mel knows more.
Mel's actually knows more than we do.
She built the vegan diet templates. There you go. Your answer is really good. Woman-splained. Eli Holland. What's up, Eli? If you don't like Dimitri from Paris, we can't be friends. That was from last week. That was sweet. In the
Mel keep it
says,
clean.
Mel is swearing, you guys. Renaissance is not that kind of company.
Mm-mm. You don't condone that type of language.
And Mel says, do you know the PD?
Protein,
CA,
digestibility, coefficient, amino acids.
Stop making shit up.
It's something like that.
Yeah. Hemp off the top of your head.
No,
bitch. I know some of the digestion speeds, though. God damn it. Anyway. Eli Holland says, in the GPP for sprinters, James, this is for you. The GPP for sprinters doesn't make sense to do power work every day in the gym.
No.
Okay. Like some kettlebell swings or jump squats?
Technique potentiation, yes. Actual power work, no. So what you can do is maintenance volume of kind of technical work for things like sprint technique, plyometric technique, weightlifting technique. So one of the follies that you see a lot of times is people will program weightlifting derivatives or full weightlifting movements in the GPP phase, when in reality, all they need to do is program a very moderate load, relatively low volumes to maintain familiarity with that movement so that when they get to the SPP phase, they can train that movement. So essentially, we're looking at maintenance volumes of those things, which is relatively low, and then really filling up your MRV with that work capacity hypertrophy work. And that's a great question. So what you don't want to do is find yourself training sprinting, training plyometrics, training cleans from the hip or from the knee or whatever. You want to maintain technique on those movements, and that can be achieved through very, very moderate loads, relatively low intensities, and even varying the exercise movements. You can do mid-thigh pulls, you can do cleans from the knee, you can even do the no jump, or like no calf, or what is it called? No feet, no shrug, any number of variants that you can do on that just to maintain familiarity with the technique, and then train them, as in start filling up your MEV to MRV in the SPP phase. You know what I'm saying? Did I answer that okay?
Yeah, I think so. Nicole Wisniewski says, X again. Also, if you're not operating at your old maxes because of an injury, what are the best rep schemes to get that strength back? Lower weight, but more than 6 to 8 or 10 reps per set. Well, so actually,
build up that work capacity.
Yeah.
First.
So what I would say is right after you are back, let's say you're off for a month or a month and a half. When you come back, you do sets of 3 to 6 reps because that will build your work capacity because you're detrained as fuck. And it's going to be lower weight and lower reps than you used to. It's going to be 3 to 5 reps per set with the weight you usually do for 6 to 10. It sucks, but you'll get way strong, way fast. Second mesocycle, you go back to 8 to 10 reps per set, and then you start hitting all-time PRs, and then after that, you go back to whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Gregory Tipton asks, any tips on rating workouts using RP auto templates when doing strongman event training? I generally just follow the recommendations given for strength workouts, but I was wondering if I should change this at all when the primary training events leading up to a contest. Sometimes I find I'm way hungrier after doing event training than
normal strength
training.
Yeah,
any
training
tips other than auto templates and strongman? Yeah, Gregory, just rate them. You know, if you're still sore from strongman, you rate the soreness into the template. You gotta rate honestly, and not just, well, how much of this was from the strength template? Because if you don't rate honestly,
talking about the strength templates or the
there's
diet?
no rating in the diet templates.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I think he's using the hunger as a proxy for how disruptive the workout was.
Yeah.
So make sure you rate how you are feeling. Don't worry about where it's coming from. The template rating system is integrative. That means it takes all of your fatigue and sums it into the rating of what you do in the future.
Yeah.
Because look, if you said, well, I'm not sore from the bodybuilding stuff, I'm just sore for strongman +1 bodybuilding, you're going to run yourself into the fucking ground.
Totally. I agree.
Ajmain Choudhury asks, Dr. James, how do I make beard gains?
You're the man. Okay. Step 1, you have to, this is the sucky part, the worst part. You have to grow your beard out to just disgusting levels. You have to grow it out to be like really scraggly looking and just horrible. I know it's
You're going to lose some friends.
You're going to lose some friends. You're going to look like a hipster. Then once it gets to like a really nice full length, buzz it down, and then you'll actually start to see that nice like fullness and thickness. Sometimes those little hairs just take a long time to grow out. So grow that big nasty beard. And they make like hipster men's beard products. I don't use them, but you can like oil it up. Mel actually got me a sweet beard bib. So it's a bib you put on, and then you put little suction cups on the mirror. And so you can like, when you buzz, the hair doesn't go everywhere. It collects it so it doesn't make a big mess. And then you can dump it out. I love that.
I'm considering seriously going for a couple of months of beard with bald head.
You know, I think it's a good look. A lot of people like it looks good. I like it. It does. Like this area becomes awkward because you're like, where's the beard end and the hair, or where's the beard end and the hair not begin? Whatever.
Not begin. You're right.
It's awkward, but I think it looks good.
Yeah, we'll try it. Daniel Joy says, Dr. James, the basics of physiology course here is terrific. Yes. Hugely helpful to revisit some of that stuff after leaving it for dead at school 10 years later. Thanks for abandoning it. Thank you very much for doing those.
You are most welcome. I'm glad you liked it.
Zachary Swim says, I ran into Zachary Run and we had a really awkward stare down.
Not to be confused with Zachary Cycle.
Nobody likes him.
Or Zachary Segway.
Zachary Rocket.
Pew!
Yeah, he's the man. He's out of here.
He's gone.
For post-workout carbs, can it be something like cereal instead of Gatorade? I train almost 2 hours in the gym. Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
We discovered there's the knockoff, the Walmart version of Fruity Pebbles that also have marshmallows. So not only is it Fruity Pebbles, but it's Fruity Pebbles.
That's like, what more do you want?
Mel like almost laid an egg.
Yeah. Gregory says, sorry, should have been clear, but I was asking more about diet templates. I meant rating.
Your boy.
Yeah, you're right. I meant rating light, moderate, or hard days for the diet.
Strongman training, it should be moderate at least, if not hard.
Yeah.
If it's like you did like 3 yolks and you called it a day, that's not.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking
about.
Yoke
stones and log stuff, and you're there for like 4 hours. That's a hard day. Yep.
I think we got it.
That's it.
We did a good. Hopefully, we did a good job.
It's 9:14. At 9:15, I have a phone call with my mommy.
Oh, you better wrap it up. Huh?
Run, tell that.
All right, folks. Awesome questions. You guys have really, really stepped up your game on the questions. We really appreciate it. And real quick, Mike and I have spent the last several years having office hours where people generally didn't come in to ask us questions, and it drove us nuts. And it's really great and really refreshing to have RP Plus here and have you guys ask us really, really thought-provoking questions and inspire us to make new videos and make new posts and keep us on our toes. So I appreciate it, and I'm sure Mike does.
Can I do like a fake fan speech where I'm like, the fans inspire me, bro. People think it's the other way around, but it's not.
I mean, like, I appreciate it it keeps me current, where people will be like, hey, what do you think about this thing you've never heard of? And I'm like, what? And then I have to go look it up, so I appreciate
That's
it.
really why the hell are we doing all this? Fundamentally, this is the most direct way to get to do our jobs. Help people get quality information so they can get leaner, bigger, faster, stronger, and more particularly, meaner.
Meaner.
We figure we need the meanness.
There's a reason why it's
push an old lady.
They say lean and mean, right?
Yeah.
Mean. That usually comes from taking lots of steroids.
That you would also have to do if you want to run the meanness templates coming up. Up your dose of trend
Is
to
there a rating system.
Okay,
How
no,
pissed
it's
were
like
you today?
week five is trend dose as tolerated, and then 5 sets of pushing old people at the grocery store.
Costco. People at fucking Costco. I would run them over.
Are they in your way for your world record?
You're just fucking dilly-dallying, right? Like, I have stuff I need to buy. What are you doing here?
Perusing, I guess.
It's a fucking pillow. Pick one.
In Hofmanistan, is perusing a capital crime?
They're literally like a helicopter drops a SWAT member like in through the roof, and they direct you to either off to the side or they just escort you out. They just like Batman style, like dropped in, like
carabiner
clips you on,
and then
takes you out. If you can't make a decision on which fucking tomatoes you want to buy in a timely manner,
that seems reasonable.
Out.
Just a normal society, really.
And then like every now and again, a Java SWAT officer will come down.
Oh.
It's like a holiday, Christmas time.
Sweet.
Like, oh.
All right, folks. Love all of you dearly, like you were my own children. See you next week.